Welcome to On the Chain. This is Chip. Jeff is away on special assignment tonight. In this video, we're going to get into a bunch of different things. First off, it looks like the SEC got busted. What happened? We'll get into that. Also, does crypto have a new Kingmaker? We'll explore that as well. And we'll get into a little bit of the House House Committee hearings that happened earlier today about stablecoins. Guys ready? Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
And welcome. So first off, guys, if it's your very first time here, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, click that notification bell right down there. Yeah, click it. Boom. We'll do that first thing. Let's get this out of the way. There we go. Yep. Like, subscribe, click that notification bell. And I want to dive into a bunch of things. You know, we always on the chain here, always find out where are people coming into. Where is the OTC family coming in? Go ahead and drop your city, your country. We'll pop a couple of them up on the screen, but I always like to see where people are coming in from. And forgot my headphones, probably because Jeff's not here, but I'm going to need them for later because we're going to listen to some stuff. And we're going to get into that. So I want to see where people are coming in from tonight. So, look at that. Bullish Mr. K. I can read between the lines there. Geez, I wonder what he's trying to say. I wonder what that means. I think we all kind of know what that means. Look at Robert Deesh is here from Australia, if I said that properly. Then we have, what else we have here? Vancouver, Canada. Canada. Very proud of you Canadians. Very proud of what's going on up there. Guys, listen, you have to stand up. And man, I've been impressed with what's going on up there. 2 a.m. from Germany. Welcome. Good to have you here. We got San Diego in the house. Surf Days. Sarasota. Susie's up in Sarasota. What's up, Susie? Just south of you. We got Eve from the Freedom Train. There we go. Troubled Drifter. Silverback from Vegas. Slovakia. Beautiful Slovakia in the house. DC in the house. Conroe, Texas, Houston, Texas. Wow, we got a lot of Texas in here. And hey, good evening, Jim D. Good to see you in here. We have South Brazil. I love to see that too. We got Pittsburgh in the house, another great city. I spent some time there. Chi-Town, Chicago. Yeah, it's good to see all these. Further south, Texas. Talking about Borderman. We're talking about Mexico. What are we talking about? West Virginia representing. So, yeah, it's great to see everybody in here. Also, a lot of Australia. Hey, what's up, Martin? Good to see you. And Frank from Toronto. What's up, Frank from Toronto? We're going to get into a couple things here as we kind of mosey down here. There's a lot of stuff going on. I want to start off by just throwing this up, and then we'll get to some of the other things that I teased a little bit at the beginning of this video. But let's take a look at this first off. Let's look at this, shall we? We've got this. This is a tweet put out by the Payment Infrastructure News. Shout out to Van Life for sending it our way. The last few days have been marked by positive news for Swift competitor Ripple. Observers speak of possible turning point in the lawsuit with the SEC, but more interesting from our point of view is the cooperation with Modular, which could give RippleNet project a new boost. The partnership means that firms using Ripple's RippleNet for real-time payments will have an alternative to legacy correspondent banking for payments into the UK and into Europe. And this is significant for a bunch of different reasons. But as we talked about, I think it was the other night, we talked about this partnership with Modular. It's big. And a lot of times we sit there and look at maybe what Ripple's doing and what their partner is doing. But what you need to take it is another level further and find out what is their partner doing. The partners are doing all kinds of stuff. So between Ripple partners, they're just covering the earth, the globe, if you will, with all kinds of good stuff. And it's let's go ahead and throw that back up there. I think that was this go on here? Yep. Quoting Cindy Young, MD, RippleNet Europe. Together, we look forward to providing faster, simpler cross-border payments experience for customers on RippleNet into the UK and into Europe. And of course, I think we talked about this the other night, but I can throw it up there again just so we can take another glance at it. But there it is right there. Ripple partners want to improve payments. And this came out, a couple of days ago. We talked about this. I believe it was the second or third but they built a payments as a service platform into Europe and UK payment rails, access to the likes of faster payments, BACS, CHAPS, SWIFT, and SEPA. New partnership means that using Ripple's RippleNet for real-time payments will have an alternative. So this is what's really key about what's going on out there. And what else do we have here? Let's see what's going on in the chat. Anything in the chat? Anything in the chat? Jeff is in the house. Jeff, where are you? Are you in the house? I know you're on special assignment. He's probably checking in. He's probably there. He is right there. Jeff says, hey, I'm new to the channel. Do they talk about crypto here? Seldom. Sometimes we do. That guy Kev talks about a lot of regulation, and the guy Simon talks about whatever. Funny thing is that if we were to open this up, we'd probably talk about a lot of things that have nothing to do with crypto, because let's face it, there's a lot of interest and a lot of different places you could go with that. So thank you for shouting that out. Much appreciated. And I want to go into, as we mosey along here, there's a couple things. And again, it's always a lot easier when I'm dealing with, here we go. So I wanted to get into this story. This is something interesting, because when you look at the mainstream media, the press, a publication that's normally known for politics, right? And their name gives it away. But they put out this interesting article, and I kind of wanted to just unpack it with you guys a little bit here. Look at this. Check this out. This is from Politico, and under the subheading Finance and Tax, but crypto's aspiring Washington Kingmaker. That's right. Sam Bankman-Fried, 29-year-old billionaire who founded FTX in 2019. Now think about that. Let's just for a second, let's just think about that. In 2019, it's like 3 years ago, right? I mean, I know we're fresh into, so you got 2020, 21, and 22. It's barely 3 years ago. Sam Bankman-Fried founds FTX, and it's in full blown, it's everywhere. And they have the FTX arena out in Los Angeles, and we had grumpy old senator today complaining about it. He was going on and on about it. It's none other than Jeff's favorite senator, the Shermanator. But he's not because he's a good senator, because he's completely off base with everything. But he was going on and on about it in the hearing. So you've got this right here. Let's go ahead and blow this up again. So now what they're saying is that he's leveraging his new political connections as lawmakers try to understand crypto. And I think what we've seen is look at that. That's a serious look. And come on, that is some serious hair right there. Look at that. I mean, that's phenomenal. So cryptocurrency exchange FTX made billions selling Bitcoin to the masses. Now it wants to sell crypto policy to Washington. $32 billion startup grabbing headlines for an upcoming Super Bowl ad campaign and a Tom Brady endorsement deal, a sign of the digital currency industry's increasing mainstream ambition, but the company's executives quietly emerging as crypto kingmakers in the nation's capital as they spend millions to launch super PACs. And again, a PAC is a political action committee. And I have another story that we'll get into this a little bit later. But it's amazing what's happening around the PACs. It wasn't too long ago that Jeff and I were talking about there really needs to be more political action committees to really organize around crypto. And we see bankrolling congressional campaigns, recruiting former government officials with an inside track on looming crypto regulations. So in a lot of ways, it seems like we haven't gone anywhere. And in the other hand, we've gone pretty far. We've actually having hearings where they're not discussing, let's have a hearing to talk about a hearing. No. Those are bills they pass, ridiculous, goofy bills. They're actually talking about real crypto legislation on both sides of the aisle. You may agree or disagree with some or not others, but what we're finding out, what we're seeing is a lot of intermingling as far as the thoughts are concerned about crypto. And then FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, he's leveraging his new political connections. He'll appear in the second congressional hearing later this week. He was a political non-entity until the last election cycle. And he put out $5.2 million across two super PACs backing Biden's election. I care about policy more than politics, Bankman-Fried said in an interview crammed between meetings on Capitol Hill. As the industry and our firm gets a higher profile, I think it becomes more and more important for us to be engaging with policymakers in DC. So if we start unpacking this, right, people go like, oh, he donated 5.2 million to Biden. Well, yeah, if you want a seat at the table, you got to throw some money in. I don't know where his political ambitions lie, but all of a sudden he has a seat at the table and he's talking and he's an expert. He gets it better than a lot of us do. And I say a lot of us, I'm talking about the crypto so-called pundits out there. He does know exactly what needs to be done. He's spoken very loudly on the issue, and he's got a seat at the table. You got to give him some credit for that. He and other crypto titans are working together to expand their influence at a critical inflection point in Washington's relationship with the industry. How to regulate digital asset trading has become a top priority for lawmakers and regulators. Now it's grown to be a 1.9 trillion piece of the economy. And we all know here that, I mean, it wasn't long ago that we were topping $3 trillion. And that's small time. We hear it all the time, especially in the chat. We're early. Well, we are, because wait till it's a $10 trillion market. Wait till it goes to 15. What about 20 trillion? What about 25 trillion? We'll get there. But looking at 1.9, it's pretty small potatoes at this point. They want to work with lawmakers. The goal is to create legislation that would absolve them of any current violations of security laws, said Timi Awanyemi, senior researcher and director of political education at the Revolving Door Project. This is another watchdog group. Bankman-Fried's ascendance as a key crypto player on the Hill was sudden. Well, you know, it's like you give away a little bit of money and people are like, huh, who's this guy? Maybe we should ask him some questions. I'm not saying they're related. I'm simply throwing it out there. It seems pretty interesting, right? You want a seat at the table? Sometimes you got to do the things necessary. Political action committees, what do? They back candidates that will support their cause. And that's why we're starting to see more and more of an outpouring of these political, yeah, right there. Chi-Town said it. Small taters. It's exactly what it is, Chi-Town. Small taters. Exactly what it is. And when, you know, the bottom line is that no matter, at some point, the opposition party that you like or you don't like is going to be in power. And what are you going to do? Sit it out for 4 or 8 years? No, you're going to move forward to get things done. So I thought that was an interesting article. And I do think that Sam Bankman-Fried, you know, an unknown a couple of years ago, nobody knew his name. Nobody really knew FTX. And now you have FTX. You go watch a Lakers game, and what do you see on the moniker? FTX, right? Oh, wait a minute. Am I getting that wrong? Sorry about that. I'm getting that wrong. What do you see when you go to a Miami Heat game? You see FTX. That's in my backyard. I should know that. If you go to the Lakers game, then you will see crypto.com. That's what it is. But two massive stadiums. You got the Lakers, Los Angeles Lakers. You got the Miami Heat, both named after crypto exchanges. Now, that is something we didn't see a year or 2 years ago. And that's really, 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 really promising. Yeah, right there, SBI, FTX, SPF, FTX will probably be on the WEF, Young Global Leaders. Let's see right here. This is from Rude Dude. NA says, XRP Army, let's go. Be the change that you want to see in crypto. I love how you've taken that famous saying and you've adapted it, and that's fine. You know, adapt it. Be the change you want to see in crypto. It works almost with everything. You know, Gandhi said it, and it went over pretty well. Be the change you want to see in the world. Be the change you want to see in crypto. I like that a lot. I think that's pretty good. And what else do we have in there? Let's see. Ledger. Here we go. GDLT. Ledger Citizens. Ledger Citizens. Let's go up into the grab bag here and see what else we have. I want to play this. It's going to get features our Canadian brothers and sisters out there, but there's a deeper part of this that I want to show. I want to get past that, you know, obviously the beginning of it, but it's interesting to see when we're talking about payments and different things that are happening out there in the world, that the whole idea that Jeff and I are behind decentralization is the fact that it's freedom. It's also censorship proof. You can't get censored in a true decentralized environment. This is one of the things, the virtues we extol all the time here on the chain, because freedom basically equals decentralization, and centralization is just more control. And you might think, well, these are the good guys, they're going to be okay. These are the good gals, they're going to be okay. Yeah, until they're not. And then what? This is the whole issue. People are willing to give up their freedom, and that tide is turned. People aren't so willing anymore, and they're willing to fight a little bit, which I find to be just absolutely 100% incredibly refreshing. But I want to throw this up there. Let's unpack this a little bit. Guys, let me know if you don't hear it, because Jeff's not in the chat to let me know, or he's not on the other side here. But I'll put this on. This is a segment from Tucker Carlson, but I want to go beyond what he's saying, because I want to get to the heart of what's been happening here. Let's listen in a little bit.
Will not get it. So in the absence of GoFundMe doing what it's supposed to do, others are filling the gap. An alternative crowdfunding website called Give, Send, Go has stepped up and raised already more than $5 million for the truckers. How long till they try to shut that down too? Some Canadians are clearly worried about that. They're turning to cryptocurrency. Tallycoin, for example, is a small crowdfunding service that uses Bitcoin. It's not controlled by banks. That's the point. They're hosting a fundraiser for the truckers. Now, why is this appealing? No one can steal the money. No government can pressure anyone to turn the money over, because governments don't control crypto. Bitcoin goes from person A to person B, and all the intermediary does, the company, is connect the two. It's pretty appealing. And you can imagine the long-term consequences here. If the people in charge in this country and in Canada want to make the US dollar irrelevant, they'll keep acting like this, and soon that it will be. Either way, it's becoming very clear that the only way around the stranglehold that technology has on our human rights is decentralization.
And you heard it right there. The only, let's back that up 1 second, because this is really the whole crux of the article, of the segment here. What happened to my play? Oh, I gotta watch again.
The technology has on our human rights is decentralization.
Man, why can't I catch
the stranglehold the technology has on our human rights is decentralization.
There you go.
Get it.
There you go. The strangulation that technology has, it's decentralization. That's why I pulled that clip, just because it's so incredibly vitally important that we understand what the heart of the matter is. This whole idea of decentralization, and we're starting to see it. The truckers out there, a lot of people wanted to support their cause. A lot of people donated. And originally, GoFundMe said, well, we're just going to we're not going to give it to them. And then they said they were going to distribute it to what they wanted to. And then I'm sure they had a good talking to by their legal counsel. And then it was like they refunded it. But what happened is a lot of people put chargebacks. And so you get a chargeback, it's like 20 or 25 bucks for every one. So that could have been a kind of a costly move for them anyway. The bottom line is, it doesn't matter. I'm not right. It doesn't have anything to do with the name of the service or what the service is. There's a new service they're using. But when you look at something like Tally and it uses Bitcoin, and then guess what? It's censored. It's their censorship proof. But now you might have an organization, or you might have a service. The service is centralized. So, in the case of Ripple has a board of directors. They have a CEO. They have shareholders. They're a private company, but they still have shareholders. They have a chain of command. Chris Larson, and then you've got Brad Garlinghouse. But when you look at a regular type of a service, what I really concerns me the most is that when it starts to become centralized, and that's the difference between a centralized exchange, they'll make like, for example, an airdrop happens, and that they have the airdrop, but they didn't distribute it to anybody. Now, what happens to that? And what happens to that money? Is that money out there? Is that yours, really? I mean, what actually happens to that? So this whole idea of you can have a decentralized asset, you can have a decentralized idea, but really you can't get there until you get to a decentralized type of an exchange, or you go a little bit further and you can create a DAO, something along those lines right there. So I think that certainly something that we need to think about. And let me look in here. Let me go to Alchemist. It's a good idea. I like that right there. Alchemist says freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. That's right. But that's usually what happens, is you get to that point of where, it should never get to that right there. Chi-Town, liberty is a grand experiment. Yeah, and it's been somewhat successful. But what I love, and this is what Jeff and I talk about all the time here, is that how incredibly lucky we are that the crypto community, we have been brought together. We're a global force to be reckoned with. And just as much as that, you don't live in the US, but you're really fixated on what's going on with the SEC, how it could affect the future of crypto, because it affects a company that's based in the United States, even though they've got offices in Singapore and I believe maybe Abu Dhabi. They've got offices, satellite offices are in London, offices all over the world, but they're a US based company. So people worry, like, how is that going to affect me as a retail investor? How is that going to affect my investment? And I just love the entire support. John Deaton put out that link for people who live outside the US to be able to support. And what do we see? Just a massive outpouring of support from all over the world. And what I love the fact is that these folks are just giving it their all for everything they have. And we're starting to see this idea of decentralization working itself out. A tremendous thing to see, right? So let's look at this. I wanted to play this clip. JV, the great, hopefully he's in the chat there. If he's not, I'll do a shout out to him. He threw this out there today. K-HUD says, we are so early. And we need that reminder, because if you've even been in it 6 months, you're like, man, nothing's happening. Well, how about 2 years? How about 3 years, 4 years? In the grand scheme, at a $1.9 trillion market cap, it's early. With 6,000 plus cryptos, we're early. So I wanted to put this. Oh, did I do? Okay, let me hang on a second. Here we go. I pulled up the wrong one. So then we'll go ahead and find it here. I'm going to go ahead and share this. Let me share the screen right here. So this was an interesting exchange right here. This was Bill Huizenga. He's out of Michigan 2nd District. But I wanted to play this clip here. And thank you, JV, for showing this. And guys, you got to let me know right away if you don't hear sound, because again, I'm flying solo tonight and I'm going to need to know. I put it up all the way and hopefully you guys can hear it, but let's do this. There we go. Let's throw it up on the screen here. I don't want to be blocking anything. So this is the digital assets and future of finance. The president's working group on financial markets report on stablecoins. This happened earlier today in the US. And again, Rep. Bill Huizenga. But here, let's listen to a line of questioning here. And I want to get your thoughts on this.
That, close quote. While that may not be the most clear statement of intent, it does suggest that the chair believes that Congress needs to act in order, or for most or all stablecoins to fall under the SEC's regulatory authority. Yet, during his testimony to the Senate, Chair Gensler stated in a somewhat contradictory way that, quote, some of these tokens have been deemed to be commodities and many of them are securities, close quote.
Yeah. Do you remember what happened next? He was asked, well, explain to us which ones are the securities. I'm not going to get into a specific crypto. So how do you make a statement like that, but then not back it up? Well, that's Gary Gensler for you. Let's listen back in here.
So I'm curious, will you be able to explain why the report did not include any analysis of policy issues under the securities laws as they pertain to stable coins? And was it discussed? And again, given that the SEC is a member of the working group, certainly if it wasn't discussed, why not?
So what do you think happens next, right? Why not? How come if the president's part of the working group, the SEC's part of the working group of the SEC, the president's working group, why not? Well, let's listen in to what happens here.
Yes, of course. So the president's working group was convened to view stablecoins as a possible way to improve the payment system. And the mandate was.
I know a couple things that could really improve the payment system, and guess what? Not stable coins. But okay, let's listen back.
To identify whether this new possible payment instrument, based on a new technology, would have the appropriate regulatory framework. And the goal was to identify gaps in regulation. As I've mentioned in my testimony, this proposal builds on existing laws and regulations that apply, including SEC regulations that apply to stablecoins as a investment asset or a security. So
Did I miss something? I mean, it doesn't look like there was any analysis that was actually done on that.
No, we did not include what the existing securities were, but what is unique?
Hold on. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry, Madam Secretary, but it's unclear already. So why would you not do that analysis? If we don't have a clear picture, why would you not have done that analysis?
Yeah, so I think I would need to defer to the SEC for its enforcement strategy, for its strategies about how to address stablecoin.
Okay, so her answer is here. This is great, right? Because it tells you everything you need to know. They said the quiet part out loud, and she actually mentioned the quiet part, which is I've got to consult with the SEC to get their enforcement policy. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I just say that? So, Bill Huizinga is bringing up a great point here. If it's not clear, what are you even talking about it for? And she's going to go to the SEC, and the statement he read by Gary Gensler, which was, pretty straightforward, which is, yeah, we believe that a lot of digital assets are securities. Okay, which ones? Of course, he never sort of chimes in with that information. So it's interesting when they come to say the quiet part out loud, we got to talk about the enforcement strategy. I mean, we got to talk to the SEC to get more a clearer picture. And his whole point here is, why would you even consult or consider or do this whole part of it when it's not clear? It must be horrible to be on camera. Someone's asking you a question. All these people are looking at you, and this is your answer. I got to consult with the SEC and their enforcement strategy. So, we understand that Gary Gensler talked about the pillars, the big pillars. He talked about the pillar of enforcement. Doesn't talk about any other pillars, like pillars of protection, pillars of looking out and having your back. No, it's the pillar of enforcement. That's what he spends a lot of his time talking about there. That's pretty much what it is. This one here from Apex Crypto, it says, when you've held through multiple bull bear cycles, you learn to cut through the noise and you do your own research, know what you hodl, learn your targets. The price doesn't matter. Value trumps all. Very well said, Apex. Value trumps all. So does utility. When it comes down to it, I think Sam Bankman-Fried sent it along those lines too, about the ones that will survive will have actual utility, and they're not just a meme coin that's going to the moon or Mars or whatever stratosphere that they plan on attacking or going to next. I wanted to play a little bit again. I want to play a little bit. I am just wondering if I should play the Shermanator, because it's so crazy off base. He's such in another world. I'm going to see if I can find the Shermanator here, because on our videos, if you guys come in, you watch a video from 1 or 2 days ago, Hands Loaded will go in while he's watching the show. He will mark the segments so that when we go to a new segment, you saw something the other day, you want to go back, go in the comments, you can actually click on the subject and go right to that spot in the video. And I'm thinking, we spent a lot of money for these hearings and these officials and all the stuff in Washington. And they have somebody that could go in there and set the chapter settings instead of making it so difficult for every time a senator comes up or there's a question. It's a little bit silly, because I'm like having to scrub through to look at the faces to look for. Yeah, it's just here we go. So I'll tell you what we will play. We will play one of the standouts here, and there's probably one of 3 people. It's either going to be Patrick McHenry, check, Warren Davidson, check, and this guy, Tom Emmer, check. These guys know what they're talking about. Staunch defenders of crypto. Let's listen in over here. Thank you for that, Rob McDermott. I appreciate that, man. Guys, tell me if we have sound on this. I should have asked that. Let's see.
Chartered by some
you guys hear sound now?
Small state, and those banks would be going bankrupt because they would have found the jurisdiction that had the lowest capital requirements.
Still no sound, guys? Or you guys have sound?
Of these
okay, we have sound.
Digital systems, but it's really just a potential or hope for benefit. I want a more efficient way to buy a burger. Right now, I use a credit card, and the burger company, the seller has to pay a 2 or 3% fee, or a debit card might cost 50 cents. But it's unfair to compare the alleged potential of crypto to the actuality or current system that we have now.
Oh, whatever. This guy's, yeah, he's, sorry about that. Just cannot believe we ran that long. Anyway, he goes on and on and on and on, just and on. I can't believe I played all those clips and here we are. But let's go to Patrick McHenry. Let's know what he had to say.
Looking at this in a similar fashion, is there current federal law that governs stable coins or frankly, digital assets for that matter?
There are federal laws that apply to various aspects of stablecoin that address illicit finance, address stablecoins as an investment asset, and consumer protection laws would apply to stablecoins.
But nothing that's explicitly about stable coins.
Nothing explicitly, but
And that's what we try to
the
address.
function. Yeah.
Right. So yes, of course. And by that same measure, something 100 years in the future, we currently have law for. So it's a pretty expansive response you've given me. But there is no notion of a stable coin in current law or digital assets in current law that is explicit about those things. This wasn't meant to be a gotcha. The answer is no.
Yeah, I don't believe so. Yeah.
Right. That's it. I'm sorry. This was supposed to be the easy question.
He throws an easy question, and the answer is absolutely no. But everyone's asking for this. I want to put this up for Rob McDermott. Thank you. Yes, working out. Just think of all the times your sound was perfect. On the Chain has a 99.999% uptime with perfect sound. And then when you're doing this stuff solo, Jeff did a show a couple weeks ago where I was like pinging him, calling him, saying everyone's saying there's no sound. But, when you're looking at the screen, you're trying to find this. This is what it kind of happens. You know what? Just the way it goes, man. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And Rob McDermott's right. It is 99.9% up with perfect sound. And then, usually when I'm by myself or Jeff's doing it solo, something happens. But we're going to scrub through here, and we are going to find this once again. Let's see Tom Emmer. Yeah, Tom Emmer's. There we go. Let's see. Boom. There we go.
For 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairwoman Waters. And thank you, Mrs. Lang, for your testimony and your time today. I'm going to try to be efficient with my time, so I'd appreciate as concise responses as you could provide to my questions. Currently, stablecoins represent just 5% of the digital asset industry's total value. It's a relatively small fraction, but stablecoins are facilitating more than 75% of trading in the entire digital asset ecosystem. Quite significant. Clearly, stablecoins offer economic benefits that cannot be ignored. Stablecoin transfers have nearly instant settlement, and settlement can be confirmed by both parties on a public blockchain. These characteristics lead many to view stablecoins as less risky than the heavily regulated payment rails of our current banking system. Yet the President's Working Group report on stablecoins focused almost solely on their perceived risks. The report doesn't even provide a definition for stablecoin, but it doesn't hesitate to assert that the risks of stablecoins are so broad and across jurisdictional lines that only insured depository institutions or banks should be allowed to issue them. As you mentioned, my colleague, Mr. Heising.
Yeah, I want to pause it right there. And it's bringing up a really good point that only banks, listen, they have this all narrative about, the only ones that should be able to issue this is banks, the Federal Reserve banks. And we saw a lot of pushback on this today. This obviously, Tom Emmer, Warren Davidson, both former guests here on the chain. And then Patrick McHenry. We have to work on getting Rep. McHenry on here as well, or Senator McHenry. So we have to do really well with that. Let's see if we can do that. I'm sorry, this is the House, not senators. We were talking about reps. All right, let's continue on with this.
Previously in this hearing, you believe stablecoins could be both a bank-like product as well as an investment-like product, which is why you believe they should only be issued by banks. I firmly contend that a stablecoin is a payment instrument and is a fundamentally different asset than an investment product. If we base the evaluation of this report and this hearing today on a narrowly tailored definition of stablecoin, I think we might come to see that a bank-like regulatory framework would improperly regulate the asset class and inadvertently capture potential future financial products that are vastly different than what you and I think of as a stablecoin. For instance, under this report, a tokenized money market fund, which clearly would be a security, could fall under the same stablecoin umbrella as a fiat-backed payment token that is fully redeemable for cash. How is it that such vastly different financial products could be both defined as stablecoins, and the only institutional players that would be able to offer these vastly different products are banks? The reason I elevate this concern is because legislating and regulating in this space should not be done under such broad definitional scope, and doing so would severely limit future market growth. It's not unlikely that tokenized money market funds backed by government debt or commercial paper might seek to come to market in the future. These potential future financial products could ostensibly lower the costs of participation in the asset class while offering conservative returns to investors. Ms. Liang, do you think the same run risks and prudential risks would attach to stablecoins backed purely by U.S. government debt or highly rated commercial paper?
I believe you're raising some important issues about how quickly the technology is evolving.
I'm going to use that next time Jeff asks me a question here. Jeff's going to say, well, Chip, what do you think about that? I'm like, Jeff, I think you're raising some really important points here. That's, let me talk and say things as I'm assembling my thoughts, right? That's pretty much what that is.
And what the future of digital assets will be, that should
Actually, no, that was a very specific question. How about this? Do you think U.S. government debt that underpins U.S. government money market funds is risky?
I do not. There is no credit risk. There can be convertibility risks if
So they are risky, or they aren't?
there's no credit risk,
Okay, so then,
but there can be liquidity risk just in the being able to execute the transaction.
time I have left, Mrs. Liang, I want to thank you. Tokenized money market funds backed by government debt or highly rated commercial paper clearly would not impose prudential risks significant enough to reserve the issuance of all tokenized money market funds to banks. This is important to highlight because there is a void in the market between stable coins and security tokens, and a tokenized money market fund could provide an attractive, low-cost financial product with conservative returns. For this reason, I'm working on a nonpartisan legislation that would allow tokenized money market funds to come to market. Here's the bottom line. Banks should not be the only institutions in the ecosystem with dibs to issue the potential array of financial products that the President's Working Group report simply lumps together and ties as a stable coin. Thank you. I yield back the remainder of my time.
I yield back, and this is well done. So he had 5 minutes. He got everything in less than 5 minutes. You know, and the funny part about it was he actually pretty much knew exactly what was going to happen. He kind of could see where that was coming a mile away. It would be obfuscate, ignore whatever the question is, and this all of these questioning that happened today. And another good segment. I don't want to stay too long on this, but Warren Davidson brought it home as well, and he did a really phenomenal job. And let me go ahead and stop the screen here, and let me do this. Yes, that man. Let's see. That's hopefully we'll have good sound the rest of the way. But I want to throw this up here. I saw this tweet. This was interesting because I think a lot of people have these notions when they look at when they come and they start looking at who buys crypto. I mean, what segment of the U.S. population buys crypto? And I thought this was interesting because it's probably counter. If you went out and did a poll, man on the street, I'm on the street. This is Chip reporting for On the Chain. Jeff with, Jeff's doing the film. And I asked people on the street, like, what's the breakdown of people that own crypto, you probably would get all kinds of crazy answers. But I think this is interesting. And I think this is really probably missed by so many. This was a tweet by at CMSE, Cleve Mesidor. It said, today, Rep. Gregory Meeks, Black and Latino communities lead national adoption of crypto by double digits. Harris poll noted that while only 11% of white Americans report owning cryptos, 23% of Black Americans and 17% of Hispanic Americans own such assets. And it's interesting when you look at it like this, because, you know, unless you actually saw some polls on it or who actually owns crypto, you would probably make up, because a lot of times we hear all these other narratives, you know, the wild, wild west and all that. And meanwhile, you have this adoption that's absolutely bubbling up, and probably most people don't even know about it. So I thought that was a really, really interesting tweet. I wanted to, okay, here, did we play this one yet? Let me look at this one. Okay. So just kind of recap on what happened today in the actual hearing itself. What happened? What happened to my story? Oh boy. So yeah, I want to recap, but I'm going to give it one more try. And if it doesn't work, you're done. You're out of here. But let's go. Here we go. Okay, it's finally working. Alrighty, there we go. So let's go ahead and take a look at this article. In today's House hearing, Congress rejects the Treasury's proposed stablecoin regime. And this is one good thing that came on it today, is you saw a lot of pushback on Congress about that, about the Treasury wanting to take over, you know, crypto. So the Treasury's push to move stablecoin issuers into a banking regime. No thanks. Thank you very much. Met with solid resistance from the House Financial Services Committee. Some of the clips we just were listened to. Through other reporting and disclosure requirements are certainly up for discussion. The biggest takeaway was likely prevailing bipartisanship in opposition to major banks, which played strongly in favor of the crypto industry today. And I think that's important, because what we're starting to see is both sides are coming together. We're getting more bipartisan thought leadership on this, especially when it comes to stable coins. You might think, well, one side likes it, the other side's completely against it. And that's not what we're seeing. We saw pushback on both sides of this. And I think probably going into this, they thought it would be a cakewalk. Well, yeah, you might get a couple of detractors, but most people are going to be lockstep with the with this thought of the Treasury's role. And that's not how people see it. And that alone, right there, that alone is absolutely what's starting to shift. The tides are shifting. Things are moving in a positive way. And this is evidence of that. I mean, absolutely positive evidence. We got true bipartisanship pushing back on Treasury. Now, if you would think that Congress would push back on the Treasury controlling this thing, that right there, in my opinion, is a major feat, and it's well done. And I didn't watch the entire 4 hour. I flipped around. We only watched a little bit of it here on the chain, but there's a lot of great stuff. And you guys, after the show, you can go to onthechain.io and you will see the actual link there. So here's another one that I wanted to get into, and I really wanted to get into this sooner, but I got kind of carried away with the with what was happening at the Financial Services Committee hearing. And Roslyn Layton, who we love here on the chain, and the OTC family loves, just because she is so incredibly intelligent here. And this is something we teased early on, the SEC getting busted right here. And I'm going to have to go into a couple series of these tweets here. Let me queue them up for you as we do it. Wow, there's a whole bunch of them here. So let's go this. We'll take it from John Deaton, and then we'll work our way back to Roslyn Layton tweet. But this right here is absolutely incredible, because the what's going on over at the SEC. But look at this right here. We have breaking. This was put out by John Deaton, who's the co-founder of CryptoLaw at CryptoLaw US. Breaking: documents released by Empower US reveals the SEC found, get this, approximately 1,000 pages of records detailing communications between Bill Hinman, Simpson Thatcher while he was in office, while he was at the SEC. Now think about that. If you guys saw the thumbnail, we had 1,000 papers stacked up. That's a lot of paper, right? That they just casually, I kind of just came across it like, oh, that's interesting. Like, geez, what's that over there? Is that 1,000 pages of items? Because if you guys remember, there's a Freedom of Information Act that was filed by Empower looking for these documents. And if we go down here, we're going to look at this in a second here, but we're going to go through this tweet thread. Document appears to be a letter memorializing apparently combative conversations between Empower US and the SEC staff over claims of no response documents. Because that's what they did. They're like, oh, we don't have the documents. Nobody knows. Sorry. Nobody knows what's happening. We have no documents. And so now, subject to litigation in the group's investigation of potential conflicts of interest of Hinman, Jay Clayton, and Berger. On a January 28th call, the SEC staff claimed an error in previous search was corrected, and the more than 1,000 documents were uncovered linked to the Hinman Simpson Thatcher request. Now, Simpson Thatcher was Bill Hinman's law firm that he supposedly got $15 million from, but then he wasn't working for them, but it was retirement, but then he went to go back work for them. It's kind of a little bit of a dodgy story there. Other searches ongoing. Empower US further demanded details on the search methods. Touche. Read the full document here, the behind-the-scenes detail of the SEC staff fighting in the group's investigation, and why Congress needs to step up and conduct an independent investigation of this matter. Thank you. And John Deaton's absolutely right. He's been calling for an independent investigation for a long, long time. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they corrected it. It says it right here. They corrected where is it? Yeah, there was an error in the previous search. It's like, all right, here's what the previous search looked like. Do you see them? I don't see any documents. Do you? And then the other search was like, we have this a Freedom of Information Act request. We're going to have to turn something over, or there will be an investigation. And all of a sudden, they just out of nowhere uncover 1,000 documents out of nowhere. Nobody knows. How did it happen? Just a mystery. Just a mystery. It happens. So let's go into the other line of tweets here, because there's some other good ones here. Now, this is Empower Oversight. They're the ones that filed the Freedom of Information Act. This is what they had to say right here. This admission from SEC means in its previous no records response was absolutely false. Empower Oversight expects full, legally required transparency from the SEC. And this is well said. A lot said in these two sentences. That admission saying no response records was absolutely false. Put another way, was an absolute outright lie. They were lying when they said they couldn't find it, right? They didn't have any records. They didn't know. Nobody knew anything. And the Empower Oversight, it wants full, legally required transparency, as we would expect, because the SEC is a government organization and there should absolutely be some transparency, or all transparency. And Ed, thank you for that, Ed Franzlowski. Appreciate that. Down with OTC. And if you're down with OTC, guys, you know what to do. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, click that notification bell. That way you're notified anytime we post a video. And down below right there, if you guys look in there, we have another channel. We've been taking out clips from the show. If you didn't watch a full show, if you subscribe to our other channel, they're 8 to 12 minute clips, usually a highlight. And our very own producer, OTC family member, Hans Loaded, is the one who's been doing an amazing job with that and cutting those clips up. So really thanks. Big shout out to Hans for doing that. Now, let's go see. This is interesting how this is sort of panning out. Now you've got Empower Oversight basically calling the SEC out on the mat, hiding no punches at all, just calling them to the mat, basically calling them out, right? And now let's go into this other one. This is Roslyn Layton. She puts together, pens all those beautiful Forbes articles where the last one she talked about the whole confusion with the pronouns, the I and the we, with how it's being used at the SEC. So her thought on this was, she commented on the Empower Oversight's tweet and said, so XRP was always a security, which purportedly obvious since 2013, even though SEC didn't know until December of 2020. Hinman said we, but meant I, and now no response documents is actually 1,000 pages of records. The SEC arrogance is astounding. And she's absolutely right. It is astounding what is going on. And I just love that they called it out in these tweets. And that's where I kind of wonder what is going on with the SEC. Are they trying to put one over on us? I imagine that there was probably, and again, we didn't go through into reading the document of the rumblings behind the scenes, but you can take further legal action, and they probably knew that wasn't a good idea. Usually what happens in these scenarios is that there's somebody on the inside who volunteers or finds the documents, because a lot of times a lot of these documents end up in a shredder, and funny enough, they're stored electronically, so there are electronic versions of them. The shredding or the bleach bitting does not get rid of all of the documents, and I'm certainly sure that was the case here. This is interesting too. I saw this tweet here. I want to throw this one up here. Look at this. Now we're starting to see. We talked about a political action committee earlier, but check this out. Coinbase. Oh, got to get the buttons right here. Coinbase files to form a PAC, political action committee, ahead of the 2022 midterms. Crypto firms are vying for influence in Washington. So what I'd like you to think about here is the fact that what we are seeing, a lot of times we're like, nothing's happening, when moon, all this kind of stuff, but look what's happening. We've got political action committees. We got people from the world banding together, uniting to come together, support decentralization, support blockchain, DeFi, cryptocurrency, utility. This is what we have going on as all of us that live on the third rock from the sun, better known as Earth. That's what we really have going on. It's just astounding. Now we've got arguably one of the top exchanges. People can say what they want to say about Coinbase, but here they are forming a political action committee. Okay, Hud, thank you very much. Follow the money. Yes, you always follow the money. And it's one of the probably universal things when it comes to politics. You've got to follow the money in almost every possible scenario. But Coinbase is back in a political action committee this election cycle. On Monday, the publicly traded firm registered Coinbase Innovation PAC with the Federal Election Commission, sending a strong signal of its desire to sway federal officials during the 2022 midterm election cycle. The crypto exchange is hardly alone. Industry heavyweights formed their own pro-crypto PAC late last month. And that one was, let me see if I recall which one this was. I'll open this puppy up. Politico first recorded the Coinbase filing. Backers. Oh yeah, so this is the PAC that was backed by top execs at FTX and Skybridge Capital. So look what's happening. People largely saying, "Oh, nothing's happening." Oh, plenty's happening. People are waking up. People are united. They're not sitting down. They're not watching TV. They are actively taking notice. People that didn't care about the stock market, that didn't care about precious metals, care and are passionate about crypto. And it's starting to show, and it shows exactly what's going on, that we, the people of the world, unite, and our voices are going to be heard, because you're either going to, they don't think they realize how big we are, and you're either going to go that way or you're not. And we're going to find out. XRP Supercard, thank you for that massive support. Appreciate it. And just to kind of drill down a little bit more here, this growing number of crypto PACs speaks to an industry hungry for political influence. That's us. Shaken by last year's messy and unresolved crypto tax debate, firms such as Coinbase ran up their largest ever lobbying bills in an effort to hold the line. Coinbase spent $740,000 lobbying the Senate during the fourth quarter. Forming a PAC could shift Coinbase's horse trading further down the food chain to candidates for office. And I would take the argument a step further. Could? No, it is. And I think that's just the road that we're on right now. That's pretty much Jillian Baker. Thank you for that. Appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Appreciate you stopping in. And what we're starting to see is a shift. 2022 looks very different than 2021, which also looked different from 2020. Yeah, you could take in the whole mess of what was happening or what we were doing as a whole. But all in all, look at this. We're barely in February. And look at the kind of things that are already starting to happen. We got two political action committees already that have come up from basically nowhere, right? And if you don't think your voice is heard, and if you haven't yet, if you live in the U.S., if you live outside the U.S., I would urge you to go to John Deaton's CryptoLaw at CryptoLaw or at CryptoLaw US, and he's got links pinned at the top there. Make your voice heard. Your voice is important. It's the group of us that makes a difference. And if you want to know how that works, and if you want to know how that spreads, all you have to do is look at what's going in Ottawa, Canada, and you can see what's happened in the Netherlands. You can see what's happened in other parts of the world that have followed suit, because people realize they have a voice. And when it comes to cryptocurrency, blockchain, DeFi, we're not gonna be sitting on the sidelines. We are gonna have our voices heard. That's all I have. You guys know that we stream 6 days a week. We stream Sunday night through Thursday night, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then Jeff does a solo rant. I call it a rant because it's fun to watch. He goes on a diatribe, much like I do when I end up doing it solo. And it's something really fun to watch. But I want to thank everybody for coming in here tonight. Get out there, support crypto, make your voice heard. Doesn't matter where you live. Doesn't even matter if you have regulation where you are. But together, we're going to get this done. I'm pretty confident it's going to happen. So know what you hold. Someone put it before. Know what you hodl. And I think it was Apex Crypto to put it in there. Know what you've done your research. You know what you got. Don't second guess yourself, but let your voice be heard. That's all I have. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. I'm going to get out of here. Me, myself, and I. But I'm going to get out of here, guys. Listen, have a great one. And Jeff and I will see you tomorrow night. Take care. Chip out.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.